Just to remind you, especially people who are meditators or have been meditating for some time, a few years or many years, perhaps the greatest obstacle to true meditation is the idea that you are doing a meditation. And as part of that idea, the belief or assumption that you're trying to get somewhere or achieve something through the meditation. And so meditation becomes like the rest of your life. What you do is a means to an end. And the end is considered more important than the present moment. So you're doing in order to achieve or get or attain something. And that underlies most people's meditation, that unconscious assumption. And that's a great obstacle because true meditation is about something much more immediate. It's getting in touch with, we could say, being, which is prior to all doing. Now, being has been talked about in philosophy. There are big books written about being. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote Being and Nothingness. Heidegger wrote Being and Time. Two very big books. They're interesting. Well, in some respects. But they're still trying to reach being through doing. In their case, it's through thinking and conceptualization to reach what they correctly assume to be something absolutely fundamental that underlies all of existence. They try to reach it through conceptualization and thinking, which is another way of doing, of course. Thinking is a kind of doing also. And they didn't quite realize, of course they were professional philosophers, so they couldn't stop thinking. Philosophy being the activity of thinking, at least in modern times. In very ancient times there was something else there that went beyond thinking. So true meditation is getting in touch with something deeper than any kind of doing, where you no longer try to achieve or attain anything, any point in the future, add anything to yourself as some kind of additional achievement or even realization. In fact, the belief that what you need is some kind of realization is the great obstacle to true realization. So being, the substratum, to use a geological term, as a kind of analogy, Being is a substratum of all existence and all life, that which underlies it all. And that can be known directly within you, but not in the sense in which things in this world are known, not even in the sense in which anything is known that becomes an object in your consciousness. It's a direct knowing where the subject that knows and the object that is known merge into one. Now, being or to be, sometimes people overlook that when you say I am, that is the first person singular of the verb to be. So, being can be sensed directly, again, I have to mention it, not as an object, but as object and subject in one, can be sensed directly if you realize the I am that underlies all of which arises in your life, all sense perceptions, all thinking, all emotions, feelings, that which makes it possible for sense perceptions to be there, thoughts to be there, emotions to be there. What is it that makes it possible for these things to arise and then to become your so-called life? Because that's your life consists of sense perceptions, thoughts, and emotions. I think that's about it. There's nothing else, is there? It's just a different combination of sense perceptions, thoughts, and emotions or feelings that make up individual people's lives. So a different combination of sense perceptions, this is what constitutes individuality, as we call it. But if you look closely at what individuality or individual existence means, it is a mixture, a particular mixture of sense perceptions, thoughts, and emotions or feelings. So then we can the common denominator in all individuality, so-called, is they're all different kinds of mixture. There are billions of people on this planet, and with each one slightly different, or sometimes fundamentally different mixture of sense perceptions, thoughts, emotions. Okay, we have that. And yet, what makes it possible for these sense perceptions, thoughts, and emotions to arise and to become a person? What is that? What is the light in which these are known? What or who is the knower of all these sense perceptions, thoughts, emotions? And that is the substratum, that is the being or the knowing, the eternal subject of all knowing. And essentially, you are that. But is infinitely more fundamental than anything that arises in your life that's to do with experiences. When we say experiences, really, it's sense perceptions and thoughts and emotions coming together. Experiences that make up your life. So we are getting at now as an experience, an experiential realization here and now, is who or what you are beyond sense perceptions and experiences. experiences includes those things: sense perceptions, thoughts, emotions, feelings. Is there a more fundamental dimension than the temporary coming together of your experiences, which of course come and go fairly quickly and then evaporate completely, and then the person is gone? So the question is, who are you beyond those things? But don't look for an answer on any kind of conceptual level, but as a direct realization here and now, sensing in yourself that which makes all those things possible, your life experience, and that is the being that underlies it all. We could say also the unconditioned consciousness that underlies it all. So you can access here the silent spaces in our meditation. Become aware of the silent spaces. This is why we still call it a meditation, although it's not a doing. Become aware of the silent spaces here, like now, and now, and now. And realize that when you become aware of the silent space, there is no thinking anymore. There's a cessation of thinking. It arises naturally. And what remains of you when there's this cessation of thinking? And with that, the cessation of doing. All you know then, what is left, is there is a presence there. But it has no form or attributes. What remains is a silent presence in the background. And you can sense that silent presence not just with your head, one could almost say with your entire being, with your whole so-called body. You can sense the silent presence in the background. And the background, when can temporarily actually becomes the foreground. And you sense it not as something, but as yourself. That is why I say subject and object merge into one. The perceiving, it's not perception, the knowing subject and that which is known are one. And that's the realization of being. And you don't need to read 500 pages or whatever of Sartre's Being and Nothingness or Heidegger's Being and Time. Oh, that's a relief. Perhaps the mind comes in and says, can it be that simple? Of course. It is the most immediate and the most natural thing to know that in yourself. But somehow humans at some point lost it. Perhaps that's what's called the fall. And humans are now regaining it, here and now. And when you regain something that had been lost, you know it more deeply. So what was before a natural connectedness with being, perhaps many thousands of years ago, natural, by the way, means you don't even know it's there, you're just connected with being, and there's that rootedness in being there, now becomes a conscious rootedness in being. And that's the next step in the evolution. Could also be called the awakening. Your challenge is, in daily life, to stay connected with that dimension, realize that dimension as the essential I am, the self-realization. So that remains then in the background as this silent presence or spaciousness. It remains in the background, while in the foreground you deal with your daily life. And you think again, you do things, you respond, you feel, you have emotions. But now there's a fundamental difference. When that dimension is present consciously in your life, that which happens in the foreground of your life, which is thinking and doing and experiencing, never absorbs you totally anymore. You give it its due, yes, but it does not take up the totality of your attention or your consciousness. Or in other words, you don't lose yourself completely anymore when you start to think and to do and to react, which is the normal state, lost in doing and thinking. So you become a grounded, in the true sense of the word, in the deepest sense of the word, a grounded human being, rooted in being, and then able to deal with things in a different way also, because it does change. When that dimension is present in the background of your life, you can sense the beingness in the background. It's not difficult. Then the way in which you do, the way in which you think and experience undergoes a change. You don't need to change it yourself. It just happens. And everything you're thinking and you're doing becomes imbued with a quite a peaceful energy. Allow the mind to subside, which means thinking right now is not important. Something else is important. Meditation begins when thinking is recognized as not all important. And you begin to sense there's something in you that's deeper than thinking. And becoming aware of that dimension beyond thinking, that's meditation. Not below thinking, in which case you would go into sleep, but above thinking, so to speak. So right here and now, how do you become aware of that dimension? Simply by becoming aware of yourself. Not the historical self, person, but a more fundamental sense of beingness or presence that is always there, but most people don't know it's there, and so for them it is as if it didn't exist. So meditation is becoming aware of yourself as a sense of presence. And that sense of presence could also be called stillness. And could be called many other things. And realizing that dimension within yourself is the most important thing for you in this lifetime. It's a kind of foundation for all that is good. In your life. And if you're not aware of that dimension that transcends the person, it means that continuously you derive your sense of who you are from the movement of your mind, which is thought, and nothing is going to give you lasting fulfillment if you haven't found that dimension. In other words, life becomes frustrating, frequently upsetting, consisting seemingly of a succession of problems and conflict situations, things going wrong, continuously demanding your attention, with an unspoken promise, which is an underlying assumption, unconscious, that at some point your life is going to work out and will be fulfilling, you'll become free of your problems. Perhaps a better relationship, better place to live, better work situation, improved health situation. And then when you come into a new situation, it seems at first, yeah, this is better. And then the old patterns re-emerge in the new situation. In other words, it's no longer fulfilling. So nothing in this world can be fulfilling for long if you haven't transcended the person and the historical sense of self. to be. This is the being dimension, to become aware of the simple fact that you are. I am. When you make that statement, you say, I am. And you can sense the meaning behind the words. You can sense the meaning, but you cannot understand it. I'm using the word understand as conceptual knowledge, conceptual realization. You cannot understand conceptually what I am means or points to. You have to give up wanting to understand, which means you have to give up thinking. And although I am is still a thought, a word, but behind the word is the thought. It takes you to the edge. What it points to is beyond thinking. What it points to is that you can become aware of being conscious. Right now. So you're becoming aware of yourself as a space of consciousness. And that's who you are. That's the very foundation for your sense of identity. I am. So when you become aware of that, there's no duality. The duality is there when I speak about it, because of the way a sentence is constructed, subject and object. So I am aware of consciousness. I'm aware of awareness. Sounds like duality. It sounds as if there's the I that is conscious of consciousness. But the I and consciousness are synonymous, they're one and the same. So you cannot be aware of awareness ultimately, although when we speak about it, it sounds like it. What it really means is you become self-aware. Consciousness, which is you, becomes self-aware. That's meditation. If you need a technique to get you there, use it. Don't get attached to it. Ultimately, it's not the technique. And it's not a doing. If you're thinking, I'm doing a meditation, you can't do meditation. And even to say, I meditate is misleading. And can become an obstacle, the idea that I am meditating, or I have to meditate. Because it implies that you're doing something. Doing takes time. Meditation is the realization of the timeless dimension of consciousness. So it can't be a doing. It's only when doing is relinquished you become aware of being. Like now. So there is the timeless dimension, which is inseparable from who you are in your essence, which at the same is also the timeless dimension of the universe. So the ability to be still, or to realize the stillness that's already there within yourself, and not believing that you need to still your mind, which becomes almost a battle, becomes a doing, but to realize even if your mind is in turmoil, underneath it There's a stillness, like the deep waters, the depths of the ocean. And you realize that just by becoming aware of yourself. Not the historical self, but the I. Presence. In some other translations he says, I want you to have abundant life. Now, abundant does not mean lots of things, because that would mean that shopping malls are the kingdom of heaven. Let's say your goal is to be widely known and to impact people's lives with your music. Fine, perhaps you'll achieve it. You can visualize it. Oh, by the way, when you visualize a goal that you want to achieve, it's not in the future. If you, this is to do with manifesting, when you want to manifest something, it doesn't work very well when you think, I will be famous, I need to be famous, I want to be famous. Not good for manifestation. If you want to manifest something, you have to start with the foundation for manifestation is always the present moment. It's not the future. It works very simply. Jesus explained it in one sentence, just one sentence. Whenever you pray for something, believe that you have received it and it will be given to you. Now, the key is that he did not say believe that you will receive it, because that puts it into the future. He said, when you pray for something, in other words, when you want something, believe that you have received it. Now, what does that mean? You have to feel in this moment the fullness of life that is there when you go deep enough into the being of you. Then you feel there's the fullness of life, and you feel there is a sense of joyful aliveness, that there's a sense of power in you that you sense that is the presence in you. There is a power in that presence. And that power is, there's something that you could almost, there's a fullness in it already. You can't really, once you when you're in touch with the presence, everything else that you could achieve in this life, I have this comparison, analogy, or whatever it is, that which you realize within you, the power, is the cream. And everything else that you could achieve in this world is the skimmed milk. So the fullness of life, this is an expression that Jesus used. He said, and these are all got together, he said, I want you to have the fullness of life. In some other translations he says, I want you to have abundant life. Now, abundant does not mean lots of things, because that would mean that shopping malls are the kingdom of heaven. So, abundant life does not mean abundance as many things. That abundance is the deeper place of a sense of intense aliveness, the fullness of life that you feel within you, that is abundant life. Presence, to feel the life that you are, the consciousness that you are. Out of that everything comes. That's the fullness of life, or abundant life. You feel it in this moment. And then, if you then want to achieve something, you bring a vision, what you want, and to let it merge with that feeling. Let's say you're a great musician who's reaching millions of people, and you see yourself as this great musician reaching millions of people, but not in the future. How does this great musician feel once he has reached, or she has reached, millions of people? This is exactly how it feels. The fullness of life. you feel it right here now. So you merge the vision with the feeling of fullness of life, which is presence. And then that's manifestation. That also means, however, when you get what you wanted to manifest, you're not any happier than you are already. You're not more joyful or fulfilled than you are already. The fulfillment can only be arrived at in the present moment, because that is the fulfillment is not dependent on external conditions. The fallacy is to believe that something in the external world that you could arrive at or you could achieve has the capability at some point in the future of fulfilling you, of in whatever way, of making you happy, making you complete, making you peaceful, making you feel your sense of self more strongly, whatever it may be. So the belief that something out there can give that to you, in other words, to put it in the most general terms, the feeling that the world can make you happy. The world could be anything in the world. Could be a person, another person, an achievement, a place, whatever it is. The world can make me happy. It cannot. The world can briefly give you a sense of, I have arrived, but then you see, oh no, that wasn't it. This is the case with relationships, it's the case with anything you achieve, even great worldly success. I've met many worldly successful people who told me they became very miserable soon after their worldly success. So that's not it. So the present moment is the key to all achievement. If you feel the intensity of presence, then everything else is an added onto you. That's all manifestation. Jesus used that expression. Seek only the kingdom of heaven, and all the other things that you think you need will be added onto you. They are additions, but they are no longer the things that totally dominate your consciousness and determine whether you turn out to be a happy or an unhappy person. So the joy is found already. If the thing is added to you, you say, oh, that's great. But it doesn't change how you feel already. So you need to find the place of fulfillment in the present moment first, and then you can manifest. So the foundation for manifestation is becoming intensely present and realizing your essence identity and live from and through your essence identity. Then through the essence identity you can manifest things. But these are not the things that will make you happy. They are icing on the cake. They're not the cake. So whatever you can achieve is the icing on the cake. It's not the cake. The cake is here and now. That's the key. And that also means your inner state is no longer dependent upon external conditions, and is no longer dependent upon whether you achieve so-called worldly success or not, because it's very much secondary. It's nice if you have it. It's not a big deal if you don't. That's so, and you can still be determined and feel very strongly that you have it already. Let's say, okay, I want to live in a great place where there's no longer cold, and let's say it's Hawaii. Okay, I want to move to Hawaii. I'll be happy there. When I move to Hawaii, or maybe it's Bali, when I move to Bali, I'll be happy there because it's paradise. It's wonderful. Okay, I want to move to, then you can manifest. I want to move to, you can even paint Bali on a vision board, Bali, and so I want to move to Bali. But you have to be in Bali in this present moment. How will you feel if you're in Bali? If you can't feel that now, then it's not going to work very well. The tropical island that you think will make you happy, no, you have to experience it as This is the essence of who you are, will make you happy, fulfilled, and joyful. And then, if it manifests as a tropical island, that's fine. But if when you arrive in Bali, when you're already feeling pleasant, it's an adding on to. Because when you arrive at Bali, you may find not everything is paradise, even there. I haven't been there, but I had somebody who rented a house there, and then, yes, it was lovely, but there's always something when you're at night time. The rats were jumping up and wanting to get into the pantry and get the food. So it's not, no. If the fulfillment does not come from within, in the now, whatever you achieve will be marred by something. There's always be, yes, it'll be nice, but something will go wrong with it. There's something that seems to spoil your enjoyment of it. There's always something that's in the nature of the external world. Or it doesn't last long enough, and then it's taken away again. Or you get tired of it. Oh, this is so great. Okay, what now? See, it's not great anymore. So the foundation is, ultimately, there are many ways in which we can talk about it, realize your essence identity, and there's no greater fulfillment than to realize the presence that you are, the being that you are, beyond the person, beyond the human, so that and then you become a full human being. The being is the foundation. That's, again, you remember, you probably knew it already, the story of Mary and Martha I told the other day. It's in the new. Mary represents the being dimension. Martha represents the doing dimension. Mary is deeply immersed in being. Martha is active doing things. Ultimately, they're not meant to be two different people. They need to become one human who does not lose connectedness with being when he or she is engaged in doing. And so any kind of manifestation is also a kind of doing when you want to manifest something. So the wonderful thing is you can't really fail anymore, because failure means you're terribly disappointed because you didn't get to that goal. That's all. Your life has just become, you worked for years and you tried, and then you didn't arrive at your goal, and then you develop the mental concept of, I have failed. And whenever you give too much power to the outside world and to external conditions and to future, you will fail. Many people who are very successful temporarily in this world are also very miserable. So they fail, but they fail within their success. They fail. There are many wealthy, famous people who are miserably unhappy. There are also a few wealthy, famous people who are okay because they have discovered the deeper dimension within themselves. There are a few, but they had to go through unhappiness first and realize that's not it. I'm on the cover of all these magazines, and everybody talks about me, and not me. I'm just giving an example. No. There's not enough drama in my life for people to talk much to talk about. So remember, the foundation for manifestation is here and now, and then enjoy the doing. If you're writing a book, some of you may be writing a book or have written books already, or if, let's say you are writing, enjoy the process of writing. And always connect with the stillness within. When the flow is not there, go within, connect with the stillness within. Become present.
My question is about my kids. I'm grateful that when I read A New Earth, that it resonated with me. I've been looking for a spiritual path, and it made sense to me. It resonated with me, and it took. I read The Power of Now years ago, and I kind of read it and got it up here and put it on a shelf and kind of moved on. But this time it seems to have taken a little bit more.
Yes.
So I'm working at it. And I have 4-year-old twins and an 8-year-old. So my question is how to teach them, to expose them to this, because my wife and I have different views. She considers herself to be Catholic, and I don't have an association with a standard religion, so to speak. This seems to resonate with me. So I'm just trying to get a sense for how to interact with them and to share this with them.
Yes. So the twins are how old? 4?
4, yeah.
And the older one is?
He's 8.
8. That's a boy?
The oldest is a boy, and the twins are boy-girl.
Oh, yeah. Well, the most important thing is, and many even good parents don't know that, first of all, the energy field at home, the energy that you and your wife generate at home, which is a reflection of both your states of consciousness, is one of the most important factors. So what is the general energy field that on a daily basis you and your wife manifest, generate in this home environment? I do know that nowadays many home environments have a very nervous energy field because everybody is so busy getting things done. The parents are busy getting things done. The children are encouraged to continuously do this and do that, or sometimes encouraged to stop doing this or stop doing that. And then they have this additional layer of electronic devices, the pads, iPads, and whatever other devices, Samsung, and so on. The parents use them, the phones, children begin to use them, but mainly the constant field, almost stressful environment to visit some of these families. There's always the next thing to do that seems to the underlying energy field seems, what's the next thing that we need to do? And have you done that yet? Come on, let's do that. Have you brushed your teeth? No. Okay, then do it. Many well-meaning parents interact with their children predominantly 90% or more, even 100%, on the level of doing. Either do this or stop doing that.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at being a human doing.
Yes.
Less good at being a human being.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the being of the child is never fully acknowledged. In order to acknowledge the being of the child, you have to spend moments when you give the child your fullest attention, not your fullest attention because you're talking about something that needs to be done, but your fullest attention to, for example, by just listening to the child when he has something to say to you or tell a story, or giving your fullest attention occasionally by just observing them or him or her observing as they go about their life in the house. It just needs to be a few minutes where your attention rests upon them, even if they are sometimes not directly interacting with you, because by observing them at play, for example, without telling them to do this or that or don't do this or that, but simply allow your attention to rest on them and watch them, if possible, in that state of relatively, as much as possible, thoughtless awareness, where you're just the aware presence for the children. And then occasionally, when they come close to you, to look into their eyes. Doesn't have to be long. They don't even have to. You don't say, "Let's look into each other's eyes." That doesn't work. You look into their eyes when you talk to them, when they talk to you, and in that moment of looking, you connect with their being. So that part of your interaction with the child is not based on doing, but on a flow of being towards the child, so that you connect on the level of being. That means you acknowledge the deeper reality of that child. You truly acknowledge their being. I would suggest that in modern families, in most modern families, children very often are in states of anxiety or great restlessness, later becoming, in teenage years, becoming states of antagonism and anger. And I would suggest that often the child doesn't know why there is this anger and restlessness. It often goes back to the parents' inability, although they've done everything for the child on the level on the doing level, but the children feel unseen by the parent. They feel unseen in their being. They are not acknowledged in their being. And if they are unseen, that vital dimension of their being feels starved. It is not encouraged by the child, and the deepest connection with the child is missing. The parent doesn't know that. They think, I'm really I'm doing all I can.
It makes sense, because with the 4-year-olds in particular, I get what you're saying. I get them with all of them, but in particular with them, they're not getting that. Yes. I can see they're angry about not getting the attention that they want. They throw really big tantrums.
Yes.
And my 4-year-old son actually gets physically angry.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now, you don't give them the attention when they demand it through throwing a tantrum. That's not the moment to give them. Although when the tantrum does happen, it's good if you can be spacious and allow it to be while it happens, instead of reacting, so that they don't pull you into a similar state of consciousness when you get angry because they are in a tantrum. So if you can then take that as a signal to be really alert and present and observe, and so that is not the moment, though, to connect, because the child at that moment isn't. The pain body is there covering up the essence of their being. So the moment they demand attention is not the best moment to give them attention. Because the demand for attention can also be an egoic thing. So it's not necessarily that the ego doesn't want attention on the deepest level. It doesn't know what the deepest level is. The ego wants a different kind of attention. It wants you to strengthen the ego in the child. And so it often is also a desire of the ego to control the environment, because there's no other ways. So very young children cry very loud because it's an attempt of the developing ego to exert some control over their environment. And there it's good not to give them what they need, what they demand there, but give them attention in other moments. And the real attention is
let your awareness rest upon them. Look at them. See them. They want to be seen. That's their being. Acknowledge their being, so that's don't, again, I have to repeat it because it's so important, don't always interact only through doing, or don't do this, don't do that, which tends to be the case with families. And with your wife, the same. Make sure that there is some spaciousness in your relationship. No matter how busy the household is, make sure there is some spaciousness in the relationship between you, so that there's some spaciousness emanating from both of you, some peace, even though you may be busy, but there's some peace emanation into the energy field in your home that comes from you. And that's, children respond very much to the energy field that they grow up in. That affects them very deeply. So and the interaction between you and your wife is what generates that energy field. And then give them attention. Doesn't have to be long periods of time, but often. At night, before bedtime, and during the day, watch them, listen to them occasionally, fully, and don't interfere with some kind of advice necessarily. Just listen, just look. Acknowledge their beautiful being, which is there, and that's the greatest thing you can do for the child.
And at first there are even people who feel they need that drama to feel that the relationship is still real. And that is, there comes a point when it gets too much. So then the pain that arises so often and so frequently, it gets too much, and I can't live with this person anymore. And then you separate. But if the awareness hasn't come in, so that you can be aware of your own pain body, what you contribute to it, then you will repeat the same thing in the next relationship. So the pain body needs to re-experience emotional pain through drama. And whoever it comes up first in, it is usually it's always recognizable by being an overreaction to something, an event, something you said, something you did, or something you failed to say, or you failed to do. But the person who is displaying the pain body does not know it's an overreaction. So only an outside observer or the other might see that it's an overreaction, but to the pain body it seems a totally natural reaction. So you need to know what situations, there may be certain situations in your life that tend to trigger the pain body in your relationship or at work. There may be certain people that your pain body is susceptible to, resonates with. If you live alone, then the pain body has a little problem. What am I going to feed on? I can't have drama with myself, or can I? Yes, you can. You can have the drama in your mind. You can have a stream of destructive and negative thoughts in your mind, either about yourself or others. They may not be here, but you have the thoughts about them. They may be in your past, they may be dead. But the pain body, if there's nobody around that the pain body can feed on through negative emotion, it will feed on negative
thought streams, your thought streams. And this is where the addiction to negative thinking comes from. There are people who are actually addicted to negative thinking because the negative thinking is used by the pain body to feed on, because because thought is energy. The pain body is it's an energy form. Everything is energy. Every thought is an energy field. And a negative thought and energies have different frequencies, so to speak, and the pain body seeks further negative thinking because it strengthens itself through that. It's food. And so people get into terrible suffering, terrible misery in their lives, not realizing how it arises. If they knew how it arises, if there were some awareness in the background, and for some people this realization has come through reading The Power of Now, and they suddenly, oh my God, this is what it is. This is what I've been doing, this is what we have been doing for all those years. Okay, and that's a good thing to see that. That's not all, because now the next challenge is to be there when it happens, in the moment. You can more easily see it, okay, that's been going on in my life. But in the moment has, the emotion that comes up has enormous energy and can easily obscure your awareness again. So it requires a lot of vigilance, but being here, for example, is quite helpful because it increases your level of presence, your general level of presence, which then you will have grown, this is how I put it, you will have grown in presence power. For example, by being here, even by reading a powerful spiritual book that has been written through presence that can help you, or listening to a spiritual talk, then practicing presence in your daily life when you are not being challenged. But don't wait until you're challenged to practice presence. But a challenge, of course, is a little alarm bell that says, this is your opportunity to wake up and to be present. But don't wait for the alarm bell, because the alarm bell is not going to wake you up if you haven't practiced presence when we are not being challenged. For example, here, walking in nature, being present as you take in all the perceptions, the sense perceptions, being present while you walk, inviting presence into your life in daily situations that are very ordinary situations that are usually regarded as too ordinary really to be acknowledged. Whenever you wait somewhere, I often say that, don't get upset about waiting, or if you do get upset, observe it, be there, and accept any waiting period as an opportunity to be present. So where is your attention when you are in those situations, neutral situations, non-challenging situations? Where is your attention when you are present? Now, the ultimate way of being present is to just be the presence. Sense the presence that you are. Sense the awareness. Be there as the awareness. Before you can be there as the awareness, and you can transition, and this is a more advanced thing that may not yet be possible for all of you, to transition from thinking into awareness, the ability to step out of thinking into awareness. So you've been thinking, and suddenly you realize that your thinking is causing you certain emotions. You're waiting in line, that's a simple situation, you're waiting in line at the airport or the supermarket, and it's not moving. And the people who are at the other end dealing with things are obviously totally incompetent, says the mind. How can they allow people like that to be there? Also, your mind will be telling you that you're never going to fly with this airline again, or do your shopping again at this place, and it's all. And then comes the next negative thought, that there's so much, I'm so overwhelmed with stuff that I still have to do, and here I am, and I'll miss that plane. Why is this always happening to me? Why things always go wrong? Don't let me think about all the other things that have gone wrong recently. And you can see, if then you're alert, you will feel, you become unhappy, very unhappy. Now that should be an alarm bell. It can be potentially. It's not a bad thing to be unhappy, because you can use it as an alarm bell that says, oh, there's some lack of awareness here. There must be a lack of presence. I must have been missing the present moment. Is there any way I can get out of that right now? Can I bring my attention back to the present moment? And you realize what you've been feeling, the unhappiness, did not come from standing in line at the airport check-in counter. Because after all, and this is just one example, a simple one, after all, you're just standing somewhere and breathing. There may be a little bit of discomfort. You're not sitting, okay? And of course, if you're physically handicapped, then you might need to do something to sit. But okay, there might even be a little bit of pain in your legs. Okay, but is that a big deal? It's pain in your legs, okay. So all that there is you're standing there and breathing. That in itself is not a source of unhappiness. But your mental commentary on the situation is the cause of unhappiness. Once you see that, freedom comes in. And in that moment, you can ask yourself always, what happens if I drop, relinquish, let go the mental commentary? Let's just try something out. I'm going to drop the mental commentary about this situation and just breathe and look around at the people and where I am and see if I'm still unhappy. And that's a beautiful experiment. You can experiment with that. Let's see what this situation is like if I don't judge it. When you express an opinion, then already you can know whether you are completely identified with the opinion and then become defensive and angry when somebody has a different opinion. Or if you are completely identified, you get very emotional when somebody puts forward a different viewpoint or opinion. So you're totally in the personality, the person. Or you may be able to discuss something that means that is the art of living in a conscious way, living consciously. I highly recommend this practice whenever there's a discussion about whatever it may be. In the discussion, the tendency to be drawn into mind identification is huge, and there's a gravitational pull that immediately exerts itself, and it draws you into mind completely.
But if you're present enough, then you're able to discuss something, whatever it may be, without self-identification. I mentioned it briefly before, without self-identification with your opinion. So this is what I think, but that's not what I am. That is a mind formation. I think it's important that I state that this is, and the reason why I think this is this, and this, and this. Another important thing is when you are self-identified, it creates a lot of emotion, egoic emotion, and the emotion actually rises into your mind and makes you confused. Then you get emotional thinking, which very often is irrational. That's not uncommon. And once you're trapped in that gravitational pull of emotional thinking, it always means you're defending yourself against this, that, trying to enhance yourself, diminish the other. Then once you're in it, it's not easy to get out. You may have to wait until the momentum exhausts itself, as was mentioned in the Seinfeld episode. So then you will compulsively and emotionally talk about something, in many cases totally insignificant, like doors on bathroom doors, the doors on bathroom stalls, as in the episode, and it becomes important to you because your sense of self is in it. And it can lead to a breakdown in relationship. A different opinion. Somebody has a different opinion becomes your enemy because he or she has a different opinion. And as you're present, you practice with putting forward so you need to be able to sense the deeper dimension still present within yourself, the deep I. And then the surface I can discuss things. So there's an alertness in the background while you're speaking. That means there's a spaciousness even while you're discussing something. And you don't confuse the mental position of the other person with who the other person essentially is. That's a continuous practice. Everyday life, almost any situation that arises can become part of your spiritual practice, so that whatever you do in your life, any activity, anything you do, if you can realize from now on the rest of your so-called life, there's always something that is of primary importance, although you may easily forget that for a while. And I mentioned before, your primary importance is the state of consciousness, your state of consciousness at this moment. Not whatever it is you're dealing with at this moment. Now, it's very seductive. The world will try to tell you, and your mind, which is inseparable from the world, will try to tell you that this is of primary importance. Now, it could be that there's an emergency, somebody has fallen into the water, and you are going to jump in to save him or her. Hopefully you can swim. there may not be time to sense the unconditioned within yourself. But what actually often happens in situations when people do courageous things, where people afterwards say, "Oh, you're a hero," and the person says, "Well, I just did it." So if there's a real emergency, it often happens that the thinking faculty is totally switched off, and you may find yourself taking right action, and you may not sense the spaciousness, but it does come. In a true emergency, the thinking function stops, and you go, "Oh." You cannot think about, what am I going to do? This really is a problem. Because then you become paralyzed. If a wild animal comes through this door running towards me, let's say it's a bear, because they are around here somewhere. It's a grizzly bear, they're huge. Then it's coming towards me. Is that a problem? I really have a problem. I wonder what I should do. It's too late. So in such situations, you don't think. Thinking stops, and then nobody can predict what you will do. You can't predict what you will do. I can only guess that I might run away, or I might try and make myself bigger than I am and make threatening sounds in the hope that it will think I'm stronger than it. Don't know if that will work. That's what is sometimes recommended when you come across a bear while you're out hiking. Make yourself bigger than you are, and then you go, They say, however, it works with brown bears or black bears, but it doesn't work with grizzlies. The other option is you play dead. That's highly recommended. And that might be what I would do. And we could all do that. I don't know how I got to the bears, but so if it's not an emergency, and most things are not an emergency situation, then the two dimensions, this is something you learn gradually. Many times you will forget, that's fine, but the two dimensions, so that some spaciousness remains in you while you're dealing with the things of this world.